Hey everyone, welcome back to DIY Chris. I'm Chris, and in this episode we are going to build the C64-Link II cartridge that was made by RTC. And this is for you guys that are deciding to purchase the DIY kit and want to basically put this thing together yourself. It's a little bit more of a difficult project to put together than a usual PCB that you're soldering because you've got you got chips on both sides of the board, and they're overlapping each other. So if you look at this, you've got every single one of these is overlapping another. So you're going to have some that are not going to have pins accessible to be soldered, unless, of course, you decide to use some form of socket that is going to give you access to the pins on the other side. But in order to use these cases, you're not going to be able to use sockets because it's going to make the cartridge too big and the cases aren't going to fit on. So the only way we can do this is if we solder the chips directly to the board. Now I've already gone ahead and figured out the order, or in my opinion, the best order to put these things on, and that's to start with this 40-pin chip, which is the PIA. And the way that this goes on is the top of the cartridge. Okay, the top of the cartridge is going to be the part where the connector, the edge connector, is going toward the right, where this is going to go sliding into the Commodore. Also, side A is marked here on the cartridge. If you look, it'll say side A right there. And then if you turn it over, you'll see side B. Okay, so we're going to be working on side A. Side A, okay, we have the PIA here, and that's going to go just in here. But before we actually solder in any chips, I want to go ahead and put in a couple of these resistors, because otherwise we're not going to be able to solder them in from the other side. So all we're going to do is we're going to drop a 10K resistor right here. Okay. And these resistors, the way the footprints are laid out, is you can just basically bend the leads right at the body of the resistor. And then the other one we are going to be putting right here. If you want to see a layout, this is kind of like how it's going to go. So the other one's going to go right here. And then there's going to be another one. I've gone ahead and pre-cut the legs on this one. You'll see they're short. This is just going to stick in here, right here, next to this IC. And then we're going to solder these pins from the top instead of soldering them from the bottom. The reason that we're doing this later is because this IC, the way that it needs to sit in here, and the pins that are going to be soldered on the other side, we're not going to be able to solder those pins because the resistor would otherwise be in the way. So we're not going to put that in there just yet. The capacitor, we are going to solder in. So, oh, I didn't even, did I grab? Yep, I have one. So resistor, the capacitor is going to be right here. And this is just a decoupling capacitor, 0.1 UF or 100 NF. And then other than that, we're going to have a 1K resistor, and that one's going to kind of have a different footprint here. It's just going to be a little longer, so bend it about maybe 1/8 of an inch in. And then we're going to go ahead and drop that one in right here. Turn that around because I'm very OCD about how my resistors are positioned. It really, there's no like way to put them in, but it's a visual thing for me. So then what I like to do is I turn this over and I actually spread out the leads, the legs, so that they don't fall through. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and solder these in real quick. Let's do that. Okay. And those look good. So we can go ahead and clip off those legs. And whenever we're clipping leads, especially on this board, I want to clip them as close to the PCB as possible so that they don't impede the height that the ICs are going to need, the clearance, which is going to be pretty low. Alright. Now, the first one that we're going to solder in is going to be the PIA. Okay? And that is going to go here, just like this. And the tolerances on the holes for the pins is pretty tight, so there's not a whole lot of wiggle room here. So you're just going to have to do your best to get these to line up. I own several pin straighteners, and every time I do this, it occurs to me that I should just straighten the pins using that, because then they would fit in perfectly without me having to do too much. But either way, I try to make things more difficult than they need to be. Alright, so now that we've got that IC sitting in here, let's go ahead and solder it in. And it's going to be a pretty quick process here. Since we're not working with sockets, we want to also make sure that we minimize the amount of exposure of the soldering iron to the pins of the IC. Keep it from getting too hot. Alright, now that we've got those soldered in, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to trim back all of these, since they are sticking out kind of far, and we want to be as flush with the PCB as possible. Okay. If you can run your finger across the pins without cutting yourself, then I feel like they're in good shape. uh, Careful not to cut your resistor here. Okay. Alright, now that we got that in, we can continue on. And our next thing is going to be putting in the 7430, which I have right here. So I'm just going to steal this one from here. And we're going to go ahead and solder that right. Interestingly enough, It doesn't look like I actually soldered that pin right there. You're going to want to make sure that you solder everything. It's very possible that I just clipped it too close to the board and it wasn't soldered all the way through. You know, one other thing that you can do is you can come back and solder in the top of these if you realize you're missing one. But yeah. Okay, so the 7430, that's going to go in right here. And you'll see it comes out right here at the tip of the base of the the resistor. So there's some very tight clearance happening here, but it is okay. It's not touching. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and solder that one in. And then when we're done with that, we're going to clip the leads back. So these are a little difficult to get to, but as long as you can get your iron onto contact, then you're good to go. All right. So now that we've got that IC in, I'm going to go ahead and clip these back. Not too worried about even getting to these ones that are right next to the resistor. Okay. All right. So we're down to the ICs on this side of the board and the resistors. And then we should be good. So for this part, we are going to we're going to solder in the ROM. Now, if you're ordering the ROM from as part of the kit, it's going to come pre-programmed. It's going to be a PROM, which means that you cannot overwrite it. It just is what it is. And I recommend this over an EEPROM just to make sure that you're not losing anything, because once this is in, it's going to be really, really hard to get it back out. So you don't want to have to think about even doing that, right? So at this point, the pin 1 you'll see is right here. That's the square. And so this is pin 1 over here. And we're going to go ahead and just drop this in. And I'm going to show you what happens is we can't put it all the way down. You'll see that there's a big gap here. And that's because we're hitting the bottom of this IC over here. So what we got to do is we got to go through. I got to clip all of these back to about like that. So I'm just going to go through, because we're not concerned with having to solder these pins on the other side. So we're going to solder them from the top. So we're okay to go ahead and just trim these, because we don't need them to reach the other side. We just need them to go through the hole. So they can be relatively short. If you're programming the ROM yourself, please double check and make sure that the ROM is programmed before you solder it in. I've made that mistake, and getting this far and then soldering in a ROM that has nothing on it would really suck at this point. So now that we've got the pins all clipped, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in here. And now you can see our gap has literally disappeared. You can see the pins barely on the other side. But what I am going to do is, while we have this side here, and I can feel some of the pins sticking through, I'm going to go ahead and put some solder on this end, just so that we get the IC in place, and we don't have to worry about it falling out. Let's see here. And I'm just going to go ahead and solder these pins, the ones that I can anyways, on this side of the board. And then we'll just come through and solder the other side. And for this, I actually found that using some flux definitely helps. So if you have some liquid flux, I use this Kester water-soluble flux, and basically you just kind of just squirt it all in there. And if you've got that, then this next part is going to be much, much easier for you. Okay, they are all in. All right, so next part is the last part, which is the 7400, and that literally goes in here like that. Same deal. We're going to trim the pins back. They're just going to be super short. And really, all you're looking for is, we could actually solder in this entire side over here without doing it at the top. But let's go ahead and do it on the top, just to be consistent. Okay. Looks like we're good. Yep. Okay. So now, all we have to do is we have to put in this resistor here. And we're going to solder that in from the top. Whoops. Helps when you have a pair of tweezers. These tweezers have seen better days, but they will work. Okay. It's that one and the other side. Okay. So we got the resistor in, we got the other resistors, we've got the ICs. Now the only thing left are the resistors here at the top, and they are actually soldered in from this side over here. And again, we're just going to bend them right at the body, just like that. And there are 6 of those total, I believe. 6, yep. 4, 5, and 6. And then these, they just go right in, just like that. And honestly, it doesn't even matter which side you solder them in from. It's just that this is how it was in the original. Now, if you're looking at this cartridge, you'll see that it is kind of gross with all of the flux on it. When I'm done building this, I'm going to clean it. There are several different ways that you can clean it, but my preferred way is to use an ultrasonic cleaner, because some of this flux is really hard to get to, like underneath the chips. But if you have some form of contact cleaner, I would suggest that you spray diligently around and underneath the chips, and then run some hot water over everything, and finally follow that up with some isopropyl, and then either use a one of those dusters, the ones for electronics, one of those high power ones that you get on Amazon, which are really, really cool, to dry off any remaining liquid, or let it dry, but then let it dry, like really, really dry, and then maybe even put it into the oven at a low temperature and let it dehydrate all of the remaining liquid, which should only be isopropyl. The isopropyl will help remove all of the water as well. Okay. So that's it. That is, well, mostly. Actually, there is one more thing, and that is these. So if you look, let me clean my fingers here. If you look at the back of the cartridge, you'll see that we've got a cable going here. I have tied a knot on this side, and on this side there's a hole coming through, so that this basically is a stress relief, so that we can't pull the cable all the way through, and also so that it doesn't continuously like pull on the strands here, and they come undone. So when this is in here like this, you can't pull on it, right? So it's cool. This cable, there are two leads. One of them attaches to pin 15 of chip U14, and the other attaches to pin 28 of the 6510. These leads, they just push out like this, and you attach them to the pins and route that in through your Commodore. And then you can just leave the cartridge in the cartridge port. But basically, those leads are soldered here and here. The one that goes to, I believe it is the white one. Yep, the white one, which is U14. U14 pin 15 is going to go to this bottom pad right here, and the 6510 pin, the pin 28, that's going to go to this top pad right here. Now, you'll realize that you can't get to the underside of that pad anymore, so you'll have to solder it from the top, but that's not a big deal. That's not too bad. But yeah, just to show you how these are in here, again, here's how it looks in the cartridge. So what I did is I kind of just put some solder on the pad here, and then I heated it up and shoved the wire in through the hole, and then let it solidify. And this one I just soldered in from that side over here. But yeah, that's basically it. This is how you would put together one of these cartridges. Again, you would want to make sure that you clean this after. If you've got a like a no clean flux, then it's okay. You know, even just a little bit of, like, if we just go through and just do some IPA, right, like all over the cartridge. I always keep a little tiny bottle of IPA around just to clean up flux after. It's a perfect tool for that. And then I keep around just a microfiber cloth, and then you can literally just kind of go around and wipe off the IPA. And in the places where you can't get to with the cloth, the IPA will eventually dry. I would just, you know, let your cartridge sit for a little bit before you try to plug it in. But yeah, I mean, even without using the ultrasonic, the amount of clean that I get from just using the IPA is actually pretty decent. Yeah, so this actually looks pretty good. Oh man, must have had some more. Yeah, this actually turned out pretty good. So yeah, your next step at this point would be to actually go and test the cartridge to make sure that it works. Without even connecting the leads, you should be able to plug the cartridge into your cartridge port on your Commodore. And when you turn your Commodore on, what you're going to look for at the top of the screen is where it says Basic Version 2. With the cartridge in, it should say Basic Version 4. And then you'll have access to all of the commands that are now available to you on this ROM. And then you can use the other features of the cartridge, and especially the IEEE connector, as well as the parallel connector for the printer. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to either post in the forum or contact me or anybody else, any of the other members while active on Discord. So if you guys need any help, just feel free to get in touch. Okay? And see you guys next time.